What's up, guys? Welcome to G Whiskey. I'm Jeff. This is a channel where I offer my thoughts and opinions on a specific whiskey. And if you stick around to the end, I'll be giving it a score as well. If that sounds interesting, hit subscribe down below. And with that out of the way, let's jump into our review. Today we're looking at the Old Pulteney Huddart. Stick around. Okay, so we're looking at an Old Pulteney today. This is not a brand that I talk about too often on the channel. Not at all because I don't like them. I think they're actually pretty good. The issue is that they don't have a huge core range, and I have covered most of their expressions already. In fact, I think this is the last of their affordable core range offerings that I've not yet talked about on the channel. This one does come in at the more budget-friendly end of the range. I don't think it's quite as cheap as the 12, but it should be the next cheapest. For our maturation, this was matured in bourbon casks and then finished in ex-peated casks. I'm not sure from which brand. And honestly, that could go in any direction. So the question will be, does this work? Obviously, I'm not going to tell you if it works now. We will get to that later. But what I'm doing is I'm planting a seed to manipulate you to sticking around to the end of the video. There's a whole psychology to this. Anyway, normally when I talk about Old Pulteney and I introduce it, what I do is I whine about how much better the old line was and talk about how much I miss it. It's tradition at this point. But that was years and years ago, and I feel like as a society, we should be ready to move on at this point. Now, this is a bottle of whiskey that's been recommended to me many times over the years, and I admit I sat on it for a really long time. I wasn't super keen to pick it up. As I said, I think Pulteney is a good brand, but the no age stated peated cask thing didn't really reel me in. And that's because I do have some biases. I do have some prejudices. Prejudice? Peated casks are not really my thing. I don't outright have a problem with them. I don't think they're bad, but I also don't love the idea of them moving into my neighborhood. Now, I will admit I've not had a lot of peated cask matured whiskeys before, but I've had a few. Some were pretty good. Others were not good, but I guess the situation calls for an open mind. We'll see. In the meantime, let's jump into our review, and if you'd kindly leave a like down below, that would be greatly appreciated. All right, for our specs, this one comes in at a nice 46% ABV. It is non-chill filtered. However, our color is not natural. For looks, I admit I do have a soft spot for Old Pulteney bottles. I don't think they're beautiful. I don't think they're ugly either. But they are unique. These bottles are eye-catching. They are kind of traditional-ish, or fine, not traditional, but they have a traditional vibe. I don't know what I'm talking about. 4 out of 5. The bottle does not say non-chill filtered. They do talk about color here. I'm guessing this bottle was destined for Europe, but lucky for me, Taiwan is situated directly between the UK and Europe, so it seems we intercepted this bottle. I may have failed geography class. But the reason I say that this bottle was destined for Europe is because in Europe, brands have to declare if they added anything unnatural to their products. This one does. Our bottle says mit Farbstoff, which of course means they added caramel colorant to this, which is not ideal. Obviously, you don't want them to mit any Farbstoff into your whiskey. You want your whiskey to be Farbstoffless. On the nose, this is bright and pretty and fresh and clean. I don't get much peat on the nose, but it is kind of hinted at. What I do get here is the classic coastal Pulteney profile. So I get a good amount of brininess in here. I get barley, apple, floral, cereals, damp earth, pine forest, lemon, lemon verbena, and some fresh herbs. It's unique. It's nice. On the palate and finish, this is very mouth coating and salty. It's also bright and clean with like flaky pastries and butter, but you also get some heavier elements from the peaty casks. So I get sort of like drying oak or desiccated oak. There's cereals, there's croissants, there's over-steeped tea. Okay, Jeff. There's herbs, cloves, again, lemons, lemon juice, pine, mint. You might even say mojito. There's like a minty element, touch of white rum. Really interesting. All right, so out the gate, I'll say this is much more unique than I was expecting it to be. It's not the greatest whiskey ever. It's not gonna rock your world. But like I said, I really wasn't expecting much at all going in. As I said, I always whine about how Pulteney isn't what it used to be, but I feel like spiritually, I'm ready to get past that. My heart will go on. Titanic, 1997. But what actually surprised me here is that if you miss the old line like I do, this one does kind of go in that direction. It gives you more of that buttery saltiness that you used to get in stuff like the 17 and the 21. Fine, not as much, but it's there. And that's not all it's got going for it. This has a bright, crisp, malty character. You get that strong herbal influence. You get salt. You get a touch of peat. You get that drying oak. And it all works. What's notable here is that the peat is different. Peated casks, I'm still not completely sold on them, but I do think they did a good job here. I think it's tough. I think you need a particularly skilled master blender and a particular type of distillate for this to work. Because it's not peated whiskey and it's not quite like peated whiskey. Of course, they do carry some of the same flavors, but the notes tend to be lighter, and those notes are coming in through the casks. They were not introduced to the barley before distillation, so it's a completely different effect. But again, I do think they made it work here, and I think we have those peated casks to thank for a lot of those earthy, mentholy, herbal, piney notes that we get in this. And those notes, by the way, do a great job of counteracting the sweetness in this whiskey. This is not a particularly sweet whiskey. Now again, not great, not epic, but far more successful than I was expecting. I've not had a lot of whiskeys that taste like this, and it's good. And I feel like these flavors should clash more than they actually do. Like this is a unique whiskey without being off-putting at all. And actually for me, I think the biggest selling point with this one is that it's very reachable. Because aside from just being a unique whiskey, it's also got good intensity at 46%. This is bodied, it's full. It gives us that nice Pulteney coastal character. And of course, price is a factor, which of course we will get to in a second, but knowing that with every sip, I'm not slowly drinking away my children's college fund, I don't have kids, that definitely does help with reachability too. Anyway, for now, I'll just say that I like this one. I'm not sure everyone will. I think those piney, herbally, mentholy aspects, those won't work for everyone. And beyond that, I think just this being from a peated cask, that's not going to fly for some people. But at the end of the day, we can only ever speak for ourselves. I like this one. I'm giving it 85. I think it's a legitimately nice whiskey, and I do think it's kind of slept on, so I am recommending it. Now, before we touch on value, I do want to say a quick thank you to all my patrons and channel members. Guys, thank you so much for the support. And if anyone else wants to help out, if you want to help keep the channel financially sustainable and independent, there are a number of ways that you can help. I've got both Patreon and PayPal listed down below. Anything and everything helps. Again, big thank you to those of you who are already supporting the channel. Now let's see about value. Yeah, great value on this one, at least on my end. Where I'm at, I paid $41 US, so like 32 pounds, and that's incredible bang for buck. Now, I imagine in your market, you'll be asked to pay more than that. Hopefully nothing too exorbitant. This should be within what we would generally refer to as entry-level pricing. So like this should not be above the price you'd normally be asked to pay for a quality 10-year-old or a quality 12-year-old whiskey. It should be within that range, and if it is, I do think it's worth picking up. I think it's an interesting and genuinely nice whiskey. All right, that brings us to the end of the video, guys. Thank you so much for watching. As I said, both Patreon and PayPal are linked down below, and I want to hear from you. Have you tried the Old Pulteney Huddart? What did you think of it? How would you compare it to the rest of the line? How much did you pay for it in your market? Let me know that down below. Finally, down below, you can also let me know what you want to see me review down the line, and I will keep that in mind for my upcoming videos. Bye, guys.